All right, I'd like to thank everyone for taking some time out today to join Michael and I as we talk about how to launch a successful outbound program for retailers. Retailers today are facing more pressure than ever to drive growth, increase loyalty, and create personalized customer experiences, all while acquisition costs continue to rise and consumer expectations continue to evolve. In today's session, we're going to break down what it actually takes to launch a successful outbound program for retail, from strategy and technology to talent, personalization, and performance measurement. We'll discuss how leading brands are using AI, data, and human connection to turn outbound engagement into a meaningful revenue driver and CX differentiator. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Lauren Kondrowski. I'm the head of strategy and innovation here at VXI. And alongside me is my co-host, Michael Aronowitz, who is a recognized sales and CX expert who has helped leading brands design high-performing revenue generation and customer engagement strategies across retail, subscription, and consumer industries. So, without further ado, we are going to dive right on in. So, Michael, I want to start with the elephant in the room. Years ago, we were being bombarded with millions of unwanted phone calls, which then led to legislation like TCPA, do not call, TSR, GDPR, and is outbound dead?
The answer to that is no. And there are rules and regulations that people should follow, but outbound is not dead. Outbound is probably the best way to lower your cost per acquisition and create higher lifetime value for your customers, especially on subscription models. So outbound is not dead. There's different ways you can do it, and we'll talk about it today. And shoot your questions off, and let's have a great conversation.
Awesome. Let's start with the first question too, which is why should retailers consider and invest in outbound?
Well, let's look at it from a cost per acquisition standpoint. We all know that your best customer is the existing customer. And so, if I had a customer who bought from me 4 times in 2025, and now it's June and it's 2026, mid-June, and they haven't purchased from me again, why wouldn't you reach out, have a conversation with them? If someone's on a subscription model and, at the end of 2 years, that subscription is coming up, why would we wait for them to go online and renew? Why not have a conversation with them now? When it comes to upselling and cross-selling, I'm loyal to certain brands, whether it's a Robert Graham or an Adidas. I would love someone to reach out to me, which they do. By the way, Robert Graham does reach out and say, hey, there's a sale, promotion. I'd love for someone to send me an SMS. SMS is outreach. Start with an SMS, send me a text, send me a promotion. Having conversations with your customers. Again, your best customer is your existing customer. Why wouldn't you reach out to them?
So for someone just starting off who've maybe never done outbound before, would that be your recommendation to start by calling existing customers, or should they also look at cold calling?
I would start with your technology to make sure that you have a really good partner who's going to cover all the legalities that you talked about, like a smart, outreach. They have LiveVox. The name has changed many times, but let's start that you have the right technology and telephony that's going to cover you for TCPA, DNC, the GDPR rules, and everything else, that you are doing it the right way. The second thing is, let's look at your data. Let's understand what is the outcome. So if I'm going to run a pilot on an outbound program, let's look at the long tail, not the short tail. So again, if someone hasn't purchased from you in, say, 3 or 4 months, and today you outbound and dial them, let's look at the long tail that maybe they didn't buy today, but they went on site on your website 2 or 3 days later and purchased. Or I talked to you today, you bought something, and then over the next 3 months or 4 months, you bought 5 or 6 other things. So put your data together to understand the long tail of it. Because what's going to happen is your CFO is going to go, we're adding all this extra cost. I'm not seeing it. Well, you may see it 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days down the line. You also look at the retention of someone who had a subscription model that you reached out to that may not cancel. So the second thing is to get all your data in line when you start that program. Third thing is to make sure that you have the right profile and the seller who can have that conversation. Because the hardest thing to do is to dial someone and strike up a conversation. And if you don't have the right seller in place, all the first two things don't really matter.
Yeah. So you gave some really good use case examples. Can you maybe just double click down a little bit and like what business problems can Outbound help solve? So for example, I think win back, I think would be a really good one. Um, cross sell, upsell. What other business problems make sense for Outbound?
Well, you have retention, making sure that you're going to retain that customers. But let's talk about upselling and cross-selling different parts of subscriptions. We work for, one of the companies out there, and there's regular, there's premium, there's other certain things that you can go. So why not have a conversation with a customer about a premium and upgrading their service? Let's start there.
Mhm.
We're all busy. We're super busy. We're triple busy. And having someone call you at the right time to tell you there's a promotion, sometimes people buy. So let's start with, upselling and cross-selling. And then there's win backs, retention. There's so many different ways that you can use Outbound. You have to have the right people, process, and training in place.
And for someone also just starting out, what regulation should they begin to research so they make sure that they remain compliant?
So you don't need to do all the research because there's companies out there that you partner with that do it for you, just like we do. And
Mhm.
again, whether it's a NICE or some other companies, like these protections are in place for you as a business. So just make sure that you have the right telephony partner before you start doing this project.
And then what are some common mistakes that you see retailers make when they launch Outbound?
They don't measure the data. They're not measuring what success looks like. Again, today, tomorrow, 3 months down the road. That's the first mistake they make. The second mistake they make, which is really the most common, is, hey, Lauren, we're going to try this. Let's get 10 of my best sellers on inbound and let's give them an outbound and see how they do. It's apples and oranges. It's like a baseball player is going to become a football player. Like, you can't do that. And so best common mistake is that whenever we try these pilots, we always rush into it. Okay, it sounds like a great idea. We'll put these 10, my best team and my best team lead, they've all done inbound. They haven't
Yeah.
done outbound.
Yeah.
So get the profile right, get the data right, get the strategy right, get the script right, get the right training in place so that it's measurable and successful. Not just throw it together and see how it goes. You build a house, you build the foundation. You build an outbound program, you make sure you have all the right pieces in place.
Yeah. And you have seen hundreds of successful outbound programs. What separates the successful ones from the not so successful ones?
The first thing you have to ask yourself is, what does success look like?
Mhm.
So that we're all on the same page. Marketing, finance, operations, product, that everyone knows what success looks like. So
Mhm.
now your team can go out and start dialing and measure success. It has to be measured. It can't be a moving target. We can't move the goalposts. We have to start out for the next 30 or 60 days with, here's the measurable success that we're looking for. When I talked about earlier of lowering your cost per acquisition, if marketing goes out and they look at, the one-time sale, cost X. So it cost me $100 to acquire a customer. Their first buy was $60. I'm negative 40. Now, all of a sudden, that customer buys 2 times over the next 3 months from the outbound, they're plus 20.
Mhm.
So we have to get the data and we have to look at what measurable success looks like across all channels.
So let's talk channels, right? We
Yep.
we know phone, obviously, but what about SMS? What about email? Are they essential components to a good outbound campaign when you kind of bring
So
all of
you and I have talked about this. We're polar opposites. I don't really buy from email. I buy from SMS. You buy from email.
Yep.
And so I get 2 or 3 messages a day. Got one this morning. I'll open it up. It'll tell you that Robert Graham, where it is, my favorite one. I got one today from Boland Branch, right? Shop this, $99. I got another one came in from Robert Graham. So I love SMS. To me,
what
it's my favorite because it's
need it.
immediate, and I get too many emails a day. I get hundreds of emails a day. You love email. Tell me why.
Well, I don't love email, but for my marketing emails, I send them to a specific marketing spam email address that I occasionally look at, and I go and I do like look for what promotions my favorite brands are running. And I will click on them. If a brand goes to text me, I opt out right away. Like I want to keep text just for family and friends. Like I do not want
Yeah.
spam hitting my text messages. But email, yes. And you're right. If one of my favorite brands were to call me, 100%, they would have my full attention. I love Viari brands. In fact, I met her at a conference. She's amazing. Um, my favorite brand. Like their stuff is so comfortable and so soft. If they were to call me, I don't care with any promotion. Like I would be all in
Yeah.
because I love them so much. So I'm with you. Like, I would be now. I think time of day, so which I think is the next thing we can talk about. There is definitely a right time of day and a wrong time of day to call people. Would you agree?
Absolutely. So, you talked about earlier, there's, I get probably 4 or 5 AI bots calling me all day long, trying to tell me that I've been approved for a mortgage, I've been approved for a new roof, windows, doors, all kinds of the day. So already, between 5 and 7, I'm not going to answer the phone. That's family time.
Yeah.
So, regardless if it's an AI bot, which we can talk about later, or a human, there's certain times of the day that you should call someone, and there's certain times of the day you shouldn't. On
Mhm.
Sundays, 7 o'clock at night. Again, this goes back to using data and analytics. If I'm on the East Coast time and you're calling me at 6 o'clock, the chances are we're having dinner as a family and you're
Mhm.
going to diminish your brand.
Yep.
But again, so many companies just do this and they pounding ground. Like they just
Yep.
upload the files and boom, 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 keep pressing the button.
Yeah.
It's not the right way to do it. Use some analytics behind it of why and who and why you're calling and how and things like that. So yeah, certain times of the day really important.
And if they do answer, those first 7 seconds are so important because you have 7 seconds before that person hangs up on you. So, what are some good tactics, Michael, for those first 7 seconds? How do you approach it?
This goes back to training to get the marbles out of your mouth. And it also goes to the technology. If the technology part is having a delay of 1 to 3 seconds, the chances of a hang up are probably 99 to 100%. When you don't hear someone, you hang up. So let's make sure, again, you have the right technology. But this goes back to training to get the marbles out of your mouth.
Mhm.
Again, Lauren, your last name is difficult to pronounce to most people, and so is mine the first time they do it. And so, how many people have called me? They can't get Aronowitz out. To me, it's simple. It's an A-R-O, like it's Aronowitz. Same thing with yours.
Yeah.
So then just stick with the first name. But if someone starts immediately struggling with my name, I'm like, why are they calling me?
Yeah.
Who I am? So that friendly hello, it's a friendly hello and why we're calling today. Let's get right to the point.
Mhm.
So, hey, Lauren, I know you've been a real loyal customer of my brand. The reason why I'm calling you today is we have a really great promotion I think you may be interested in.
Yep.
Voice inflection, happiness, but it's something you may be interested in. But if I start out, hi, is this Lauren Kinzer, you're done. Like,
Yes.
who are you?
Yes.
So it
Oh,
goes back to the training to make sure that, look, if there's a complicated name, let's figure out a way to get to it. Even if the name is easy, like Bill Stevens. Hi, is this Bill Stevens? Yes. Oh, well, Bill, the reason why I'm click,
yeah.
that's the enthusiasm and why we're calling and how it is. So again, coming down to, we talk about this all the time. Did you hire the right person and did you train them? I know we're going to talk about training, but let's talk about it right now. The trainers need to be people who have done this before to
Yeah.
train people in real life. PowerPoint training on Outbound doesn't work.
Yep.
Like the real life experience does. So make sure that your trainers have done this before because you're right. You got 5 or 7 seconds before the hang up comes. Right
Yeah.
technology and the right person to have conversational selling.
I'm also going to add one more. It's the right offer, and that offer needs to be very personalized.
Yeah.
And
Why are you
make that
calling me today, Lauren?
yes, yes. So, how important is personalization in your opinion, Michael? Like what can a brand do to make sure that their offer captivates?
It goes back to what the first thing I said is looking at the data.
Hmm.
So, if I buy a certain brand of sneaker, whether it's a Stan Smith or an Adidas Superstar or a Puma Old Clyde, God, I'm dating myself, and you're calling me about a sneaker I never wear, why? If I'm on Spotify and I listen to podcasts and you're telling me that I should really sign up to listen to music, like learn your customer,
Hmm.
especially on B2B outbound. Like give me a reason I should speak with you today.
Yep.
That's simple.
Yep.
Don't give me a reason to hang up. Give me a reason today. The CRM says your last 5 orders. These are the last 5 things you purchased from me, or this is the subscription you have. This is what, like, give me a reason and tell me why you're
I can
calling
see
me,
you
and I'll
hadn't
talk to you.
totally utilized your subscription. Let's see if we can get you in a better suited subscription, one that
Absolutely.
fits your needs for your family.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I want to move to talk about AI because you can't have a conversation in today's day and age without bringing up AI. So, how is AI changing the game for outbound sales for retailers?
I'll say this, and I'll probably get crushed by a lot of people, but AI can kill outbound if it continues to go in the direction that it's going. And again, I don't know why every day I get 3 or 4 calls for someone for the credit line or the mortgage that I had never applied for to tell me that it's great. And it just goes on, and I can tell it's an AI voice, and I can't get out of it. So I hang up.
Yep.
And then it sends me a text after it or leaves me a voicemail. So the propensity to me to speak to this and pick up my phone is getting less and less and less. People have to understand that when you're trying to win customers, the worst thing that you can do is diminish your brand by something that frustrates an existing customer.
Hmm.
I want to talk to someone who's going to bring value to me. And so we have to be very careful on how we use AI for outbound. Inbound is a completely different conversation. But a lot of these companies are using outbound tools to save money
Hmm.
on their team, and they're not doing it the right way. And they're not giving you a chance to opt out in the first 5 seconds. They don't give you a chance to have a conversation back and forth. It just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes and goes and goes till you click. And maybe if you have an extra 2 minutes of your life to listen to the whole thing, at the end of it, it'll tell you to press 9 to opt out of these calls.
Yeah.
So AI is very dangerous in the outbound industry of what it's doing. And if you don't do it the right way, you just diminish your brand. And we all know, once you diminish your brand, it's over. You can't
So,
get it back.
yep. In the legislation, they are treating it like robocalling is what they're classifying it as. So there's definitely rules and regulation around, who you call, why you call, when you call, all of it, like what time of
Yeah,
day. So to make sure when you say the right way, there absolutely is a right way, or you will get fined.
correct.
So you need to be careful. But I would say too that AI is changing the game because having the co-pilot that works alongside the sales agent helps with the personalization, helps with
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation,
yeah,
right?
helps
When
with
you're
overcoming
using,
objections. So I think that is a no-brainer. And then I would say AI from a sales training perspective, like you could do AI simulations for outbound are really key because again, those first 6 seconds and
yeah,
getting through a gatekeeper, like all of that needs to be role played as much as you possibly can. So I would say for me, that's been game changing within outbound.
yeah. One of the most difficult things in outbound is communicating with the gatekeeper, getting past the gatekeeper on a B2B side or an SMB side, and making sure that you bring some sort of value to have that conversation. Even when they're existing customers and you're calling them up to prefer promotion to something else, like you want me to transfer the call to X or you want to speak to me about Y. And so you can't have enough training. So AI training simulators are the way to go, and that's the way you should use them for. And then co-pilots, of course, for knowledge base and answering questions quickly and doing things to make you sound better, faster, smarter, more efficient. It's a no-brainer too. That's where people should be investing in AI on the co-pilots and the knowledge bases and the training, not an AI bot to try to see how many connect you can get and try to
Yeah.
maybe then at some point like think they're going to buy.
Yeah. Now, where would you say that automation, where could automation help versus where should humans step in an outbound call? Do you think it?
Well, automate. So again, like let's look at it from a QA standpoint. and let's take 100% ingestions of all the outbound calls you make.
Mm.
And not everyone is the same. And so this goes back to, again, the rigid script. There's certain ways to introduce yourself. There's certain ways that you need to pivot. And so, again, you say 5 seconds, 7 seconds. Like, you need to pivot and rebuttal right away so that someone doesn't hang up on you. Like, you need to be on your game.
Yep.
And so using interaction analytics to go back and see what worked and what didn't, not to do it again.
Yep.
I go back to a campaign that I worked on a few years ago. We used interaction analytics in an outbound campaign. Client told us, do not call between the hours of 11 and 1.
Mm-hmm.
We had a couple of rogue agents that called between 11 and 1.
Mm-hmm.
And when they called between 11 and 1, we found out that most of the consumers took the call because they were on lunch. They went out, they had their lunch, they had their phone. So that was a great time to call. The second thing, the client said, hey, if someone said they're really busy, try to schedule another time. And that's it. Well, we had another couple of rogue agents that when they said, hey, I'm really too busy to talk about this right now, they said, okay, well, the reason why I want to set up a call and tell you why I'm calling you back is you're now eligible for 8 weeks worth of free X.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, they were able to take the call. We wouldn't have been able to find that out on 2 calls per week per agent.
Yeah.
But we were able to find out that, hey, if we do this 30 times or 40 times, this is the result that's going to get to that. And that's why you have to ingest 100%, especially on outbound, because each call is unique.
Yep.
They're not calling you, right? It can't be scripted, because scripted, hi, Lauren, this is Michael. Do you have a minute to talk? No, click.
Yeah.
You got to go right into your pitch.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can now say, what are my, best performing agents, my top 10 performing agents, what are they doing that my other team members aren't? Like, you can ask very targeted questions and boom, spit out all the right answers that you can then also launch real-time coaching. And real-time training. You could push modules out to those individuals for how to do those things that your top performers are doing.
The challenge with most individuals who do this is fundamentally they don't know how to talk to people. Mm-hmm. It's the hardest thing to do, to strike up a conversation with someone you don't know, who doesn't want to talk to you. Mm-hmm. And so your simulators, your training, the things you go through have to make you better, faster, more efficient, which is great. But the fundamental of learning how to talk to someone, different people from different ways of life in different parts of the country, that takes time. And that's why I go back to no disrespect to a PowerPoint trainer. They could be the best PowerPoint trainer. They do a class every 2 months and they're the great trainers and people love that trainer, but they haven't been on a call in 2 years.
Yeah.
They haven't been in a presentation. They haven't knocked on the door. Like, I tell people, the best salespeople that I know at some point in their life went door to door or business to business. They were out in the field. They knocked on 50 doors. 50 people threw them out. I remember as a kid going out and trying to sell security systems in the hot sun, knocking on doors one after the other. Nope, 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 nope. Almost getting back in my car with tears in my eyes. Why won't anybody talk to me? Then you start to realize no one will talk to me because I walk in with a card. Hi, I'm so-and-so. I never solved the problem. I never asked them what their problem was. I just wanted to sell them a security system. But when I start to realize that, hey, if I ask the right questions, if I explain to them that there was a robbery down the road or whatever we strike up a conversation.
Yep.
So at one point I struck up a conversation with one Ethan Allen, which became 3 Ethan Allens, which recommended me to a diner, which recommended me to another diner. Before long, I'm crushing it. But until I was able to get over the script of the card, I wasn't there. And again, you have to learn how to talk to people. Most important thing, your 5-7 rule, your 7-second rule. As soon as someone gets on the phone, pivot, conversation.
Yep. And when it comes to hiring the right talent for outbound, I think you nailed it. It's relationship people. It's people that have no problem building rapport, that have no problem talking to people, being confident in their delivery, right? Like that is the kind. You also want problem solvers too, right? That can recognize needs and be able to make the right pitch at the right time.
When we build programs, besides the e-skill tests that we put them through, we put them through a series of one-on-one interviews with certain sales leaders to make sure that they have the wherewithal and the conversational skills to do that. When you're building an outbound program, you're probably going to have a higher attrition rate. You're going to lose people. They're going to wake up with a pit in their stomach. This is not what I thought, because sometimes we in hiring, and we might tell them what a great job this is. It's amazing, and the amount of money that you can make. It's an uncapped commission. I'm good. I can do this. And then you start to realize that the rejection of the 70 or the 80% rejection you may get every day could crush you. So we have to make sure that when we build a program, we put the right people and leaders in place to do this. We've been very successful doing this because of the people that can coach them throughout the process and weed out the individuals who aren't going to make it. Because again, it's not for everybody, but you have to be, to me, outbound is one of those, like, it's competitive. Like, it can be fun. It can be fun.
Yep. And I know we're getting close to time here, but I do want to talk about metrics. What KPIs should retailers focus on when it comes to outbound?
Besides looking at connection rate, which is always the first thing that we looked at, we have to make a decision. Is it conversion rate, or is it revenue per call, or revenue per interaction? I prefer to look at revenue per interaction than conversion rate. Conversion rate would be third. Revenue per interaction would be second. I want to understand, you can have a 35% conversion rate, but your average order is $39. You could have a 20% conversion rate, but your average order is $129. Which one is right? To me, in these programs, going back to metrics, is I want to measure how much revenue I'm driving per interaction. We have a campaign that, we look at conversion rate, but we also look at, hey, that every time that we get someone on a connection, we're driving $512 in revenue. So I want to look at revenue per interaction second, and then conversion. Connect rate is always number one, because if I don't have good data, and if I dial 100 people and I don't speak to anybody, this two and three don't matter. So it comes down to connects, revenue, conversion.
I'll add one more, which is return and cancellations, right? You could have the salesperson that makes all the sales in the world, but 99 of the 100 people he spoke with return their products because it wasn't the right fit. Or they didn't.
Buyer's remorse.
Yes.
That's because buyer's remorse comes from the seller didn't do a good job convincing them of why they needed the product. Because buyer's remorse usually kicks in when Lauren hangs up the phone and turns to her husband and goes, "You wouldn't believe what I just got." And he goes, "Why would you do that?"
Yeah.
And you start to go, "Oh, I don't know." And then you have buyer's remorse and it sets in. And so you cancel.
Yeah.
And so you weren't excited enough to share with him the great thing that you just purchased.
Yep.
Or you purchase something, and sometimes people buy on price.
Yeah.
And they realize, oh yeah, you're right. It's not a fast enough internet speed. It's not the right subscription model. It doesn't have all these different channels. And so buyer's remorse comes from ending the conversation with the smile that's on your face right now, that you're so happy you purchased something.
Yep.
If you end with, I guess usually ends with cancellation.
Yeah. Yes.
We got a few questions here.
Oh, perfect. Let's take some questions.
Kurt says, I work with multiple clients on outbound campaigns. This has been a great discussion. Glad I caught it live. Curious, from your experience, where do you see the long-term ROI right now? External SDR teams or bringing SDR function in-house? Kurt, it's a great question. And the answer is what's best for your business. That's what it always comes down to. Us being outsourcers will tell you that, yes, it's better to outsource than to do it yourself for all the different reasons, and the training and the people and the hiring and the process that we do it, and let you focus on other parts of the business. But I think, the SDR team being outsourced sometimes, while it's better, is that our company works with many clients that could bring different experiences for you to tell you things, plus all the tools and technology we work with. So there is no right answer. It's what's the best for your business.
Yep.
Agree, Lauren?
Yep, I agree. We have lots of different perspectives, right? Being in house sourcing, that's one benefit is you get to work across various industries. You get to see various different technologies because clients all use different things. So you get to see the best of the best and what works and what isn't working, and be able to bring that back to each individual program. So I would say that's one benefit of doing it externally.
Another question is how important is it to recruit the right sellers for an outbound program? I thought once a seller, always a seller, regardless of inbound chat or outsourced, et cetera. Couldn't be more wrong. Like that's like saying a quarterback can play defensive back and a running back can play linebacker. Like to me, I've said this a long time, and Lauren, you could agree or disagree. Outbound, completely different than inbound, completely different than chat.
Yep.
All different. All could be great sellers. But I've yet to see someone who takes 20 to 30 inbound calls a day, who's your number one seller, wake up on Friday and then do outbound and be successful. They're stunned because they're used to people coming to them. And now I got to go to you. And you could take the most successful inbound agent and watch them collapse one day on the phone. You can take an outbound agent and turn them into inbound. They've never been more happy. Yep. Layup after layup after layup. So, yep. It just depends. You agree?
Yep. Agreed. And then you have chat, right? Sales chat. Like we have a client where we sell very high-end appliances using chat. Talk about a hard sale, right? You have to make $1,000 sale over chat where you can't, hear the tone in your voice and feel the smile and the warmth coming through. It is all through text, and it takes a special kind of a person to be able to do that. So really you have to kind of think of it as a good analogy, Michael, your football one, like all important to the team, but all bring something different to the table.
Yeah, I think when you're building programs, you have to make sure it always comes down to did I hire the right program? Kurt's question of, is it best to do it yourself or outsource? I think that outsourcers bring a certain thing to the table, and you should always, look at that. But if you do it yourself, just make sure you follow the right fundamentals you do that. And the fundamentals are, when you look across or when you listen to the calls, would you buy from that person? Do they know your business? KYB, these like, do you have someone that can strike up a conversation with someone that never met before, let alone see their face and be successful? And I think that's the challenge in any business, in SDRs or BDRs. You're talking about sometimes multi-million-dollar deals over 3 years, SaaS products. They gotta grind it out and connect with someone, and they got to know the business, because if they don't know the business, the next step's not going to happen for the next person to come in. We got one more here. When we look at outbound retail scaling, the massive fear that aggressive AI integration strips away institutional knowledge and displaces great talent. I think we covered that. Like, people always want to buy from people they like and trust. And your AI bot sometimes, again, can help set up the conversation, but certain products have to be from humans. I probably get in a lot of trouble for saying this, but I have Geico insurance. I've had it for years. I can't negotiate my insurance. I can do it with an AI bot. I can do it with chat. I don't need a human because there's no negotiation. Like, I put in the cars, they look at our driving record, I decide what deductible I want. That's the price.
Mm-hmm.
An actuary tells you the risk and the reward, and that's the price. If I'm buying a mortgage, we're going to have a lot of conversations. I could have points, no points, 20-year, 30-year. I can do different types of things. How much money do I put down? Property. Like, I don't want to speak to an AI agent on that. And so again, like it's a hybrid of both. You agree, Lauren?
Bats and brains working together. Like a great example where agentic AI makes sense is bringing the agentic AI agent into the conversation to actually make the purchase. Because now you're
Yeah.
taking all the fraud and risk out of the hands of the human and you're letting the bot collect the credit card, for example. So I think depending on the product being sold, depending on the sales process, you could probably analyze that whole process. And there might be times where it makes sense to insert the agentic AI bot, but then come back with the human. So it would definitely take some conversational design and some journey mapping to figure out what works best for each individual brand.
Great.
So with that, Michael, I know we're up on time here. I'm going to hit you with one last question before we wrap up, which is what would be your biggest piece of advice that you would give a retailer launching Outbound for the first time?
Get with your team. Who's your data person? We talked about this the other day. I'm very old. I remember direct mail. And in direct mail, we had the list buyer. And that person was responsible for all the data of who we're going to mail to. And this list was buyers in the last 30 days. These were buyers in the last 90 days. These are specific bought over X amount of dollars. And that person managed the list and the data. And that's how we mailed. Mm-hmm. Then we moved into digital marketing, where that kind of person went away. We have the digital marketer who goes on Google, who goes on Instagram, on TikTok, Facebook, all these different places, and they buy clicks, mm-hmm. and they convert. If we're gonna do a program like this, we need someone that's gonna own your data, that someone's gonna decide who to dial, when to dial, how to dial, how much we're gonna dial, and how much revenue we're bringing back. That's the first place you start. Get someone who owns the data, because the data is going to tell you if this works or not. After you gather the data, make sure that you have the right telephony, the right technology in place to cover all the legalities that you talked about. Then we start with people and training. Mm-hmm. If you get those 4 things in place, you'll be successful. But, if you hear this program and on Tuesday, of next week, you say, hey, let's take the best 10 sellers we have on inbound. Let's have them call our existing customers. You're probably going to fail, right? Because there's no end in sight. So put together a strategy to understand what the revenue is going to look like on the long tail, and you have the right people. Plan for success, and you will have for success in outbound. If you try to throw it together, you're probably going to be like, we tried this for 2 weeks and we're not converting anyone. Yeah.
Yep.
All the things we talked about.
Yep. Well, awesome. So with that, I know we're a little over time here, but I just want to thank everyone for joining our LinkedIn Live session today on how to successfully launch outbound sales programs for retailers. Michael and I look forward to seeing you at our next one. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks, everybody. And Nick's in 6. See you then.
Bye-bye.
Bye.